Hey guys, it's February 12th, 2021. It's post market. It's roughly about 8:07 Eastern. So we'll take a look at CleanSpark, the chart itself for the technical analysis, and then we're going to look into the 2020 Q4 results with their big outlook for this 2021 fiscal year. So let's start with the what happened today. So basically, we left off here last night, and we did manage to push up quite a bit. Got rejected by these GAN angles, and same thing with the lower one. I think about during that time is when the Q4 results came in. So the big takeaway, short takeaway from it is that the investors were looking for a much higher earnings per share increase. So we'll get more into that once we look at the Q4 results, but that's basically the negative outlook on it. But even though their reports actually say otherwise, so that's the initial optics behind it. And I can, you can see here that it was, gathered with mixed results as there's a huge body of wicks here in the body throughout the entire day, but it looks like we are pushing up. That 2888 that support is now becoming a pretty hard resistance for us. So we gotta look trying to get past that and hopefully make our way up here. I haven't really drawn the angles as of right now, so we'll probably get into it maybe Monday in preparation for Tuesday's opening bell or trading day, as Monday's the markets close. So here we're just looking to go see on the upside. I am pretty bullish on the company. Again, I am not a financial advisor or a professional trader. These are just my thoughts on this whole thing. But yeah, we've been hitting this thing several times. We've gotten through it sometimes. So I imagine that as we make a recovery, it should hopefully be quick, but we might end up ranging between these two for a bit. Let's look at it from a cleaner view on trading view. So these candles were pretty large bodied, and then we finished here with some push to the upside. So hopefully, I think we'll continue that push. Given that even with the bad news and the recent market sell-off, not just on CleanSpark but the Nasdaq in general, we were able to stop it. So the next possible support here, if we were to fall, would be around the $25 mark. Hopefully, we don't go down there, considering that the Q4 and the outlook is looking really bright for CleanSpark. Hopefully, we'll start to see a good upside. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the what the news are indicating. So there's been a lot in there, a lot of focus on the miss on the revenue as far as the EAPS goes, but the actual revenue was much higher. So what I've done was taken a lot of bigger, deeper analysis. This was the original document from Yahoo, indicating the financial results, and we'll go through this kind of in more detail and some more information, but we'll get all this will be kind of summed up in this particular item. So we'll go through the Q4 results as my interpretation of them and what it means. So I'm just going to highlight the main parts. You guys, if you want to take a look at more document and detail reading, please feel free to do so. All right, so the quarterly revenue year over year has increased. So that's a major increase, and that's one item that most hedge funds would be looking for. So this is great because I believe CleanSpark is on the list for Barron's. So with an increase of 130% from year over year from last Q4, that is phenomenal. Um, and then of course their Bitcoin mining portion realized 130% revenue input. So that's fantastic also. This will be a recurring revenue. That's going to be the great thing about CleanSpark is that that's a great line of business they have, and they've also increased the computational power of the data center to be 65% more. They're thinking they may go higher, and they also planned on increasing it even further. So that is a great revenue stream for them that's going to increase over time, and we'll go through this more and providing you some more insight of what it means in general. So here the year over year figures is an increase of 130%. These are the actual numbers from 0.98 million to 2.26 million. So that's a great increase. So here the gross margin is also another great increase from point 0.1 million to 0.92 million. So that's a 41% increase year over year on the gross margins. And then, but here's one statement that that's negative is that there was a loss in operations. So that increased. Their expenses in operations increased from 6.2, I mean from 3 to 6.2. My questions here is I'm wondering if that's due to the expenditures for the data center capacity increase. So we'll have to look more into what exactly that is, but I believe that would be it. I think that also that's explained a little further in the document. So this is the item I think most investors kind of focused on was that they were looking for a 20-cent increase, and they got a 28-cent increase, and they got a uh, 0.08 increase. So they missed it by 20 cents, and I think that's the reason behind the drop in the stock price today because of that. But I think that is going to be a non-issue moving forward. So because of that, that's when it fell. They were looking for a much higher improvement, but they've also moving on. They've increased their customer base or their revenue stream, so they no longer have that risk of that one single client being such a huge impact if something was to be negative in that. So that was an increase from 91 to 37. So that number is better by more than half. Okay, so that's a very good news. So they've decreased that risk. Let's see. They recognized 2.25 million in revenues during the 3 months ending in last year, and so that is a big increase from 0.98 million the previous year. So keep an eye on this number, 0.225. That will be a good number to look at once we look at their outlook. So they have several different subsidiaries, or where they pull income. One's the energy segment, the other ones are digital agency, and then the mining segment. So their energy segment is mainly with all the grid stuff that they're using, they're doing to provide for electrical grid and all that stuff. The one thing about this is fantastic is that This is a part of the ESG sector, in where the U.S. government is planning to um, inject 1.5 billion into that segment this year. So that will get a huge boon. So I'm thinking that Clean Spark will gather some rally just in general, and then also possibly grab some of that money for themselves. In the digital agency sector, they're basically, that's like their software design development company. The great thing about that is that software is a high return market, right? So once you created the software, its distribution is practically, uh, low in cost. So that will be a reoccurring revenue that's high for them. Their data center. So the data center is there is a huge huge amount of returns from there. With they're mining Bitcoin. So the great thing about that is that as the increase in Bitcoin trading continues, their revenue stream from this particular line of business is going to also increase. I believe that's what they saw when they wanted to expand their data center to increase by 65% or more in capacity. So that will be huge for them. So there was a 230% increase in the energy sector for them, and then a 13% increase in their digital services. So, additionally, for other income streams, there was a 32% in the mining segment. So those are good breakdowns of that 90% that they were talking about from one particular customer, 91% from one particular customer. So they're they're reducing that risk by getting incomes from different places, and it looks like they're coming along nicely. So they're going to be looking at more offerings, not offerings as far as the stock, but offerings in as far as services and products. So that will be there. So they will be increasing their revenue streams greatly. So that's going to be a really good thing for them. So we'll look more into. I think this is here where that number we were looking at, the increase in the increase in operational expenses, right? So this is, I think, where that mainly came from. Is they're doing some non-cash compensation and all kinds of other stuff, and so I believe a part of that is also the expansion. So that's why there was a huge increase. It's unknown right now if this is going to be recurring or not. That'll be the question. So we'll have to wait and see if we can get that kind of detail. So there was a small decrease also in other income and expenses. So this was good. That there was a small decrease in their expenses. Moving on. So the non-GAAP figures. It was basically, if you looked at what is reported versus what's actually, so that the reported would be like GAAP, and the non-GAAP would be the details of what's in there, why it was used, but they would still be counted as expenses. So I believe that they broke this out separately so they can identify what exactly happened. So there was a dilution in the shares. So I believe that is where a lot of this, why they missed it, is because of that. And I believe that might be because of the acquisition that was done by by shares instead of a cash purchase. So I think that would be a one-time hit. Um, so I think we'll see that there'll be a should be a substantial increase because that's been taken out. Their working capital has increased by 989%. So they went from 3.1 million to 25.6 million in 3 months. So that's impressive. So um, so that's going to be good for them, especially when they want to do expansion on their data centers, increase their sales team, and that kind of stuff. So that'll be a big item. So these are the underwritings, and then they're increasing the Bitcoin mining operations and additional power. Also, the beauty behind their their data center is that I believe they're going to be using renewable energy. I haven't looked fully into the details, but I guess more likely it's going to be some type of solar capture of energy, and then the data center being ran by that completely. Um, I think that's what they're moving towards in the future. So that they will reduce their power consumption, which is probably going to be the biggest expense when you're doing Bitcoin mining is the amount of power that you're going to end up using. This is apart from the GPUs that they may use, but I think for them it's more the ASIC stuff. So I think it's going to be a lot more efficient for them versus a straight GPU. But the GPU, well, that has better computational power. So I guess there's going to have to be a trade-off, but I believe in this thing they'll do pretty well with this kind of formula where their biggest reoccurring expense is being worked on and tried to be eliminated. So that will increase their bottom line massively. So they're now getting into the EV charging stations. So this is going to be another item where they will get great exposure to the ESG market, especially with the new administration being green and that 1.5 billion injection to that market. Now I don't believe that has been passed yet, but it's a proposal. So I think there is a huge movement to go towards it. So hopefully we'll know more about the status of that in the near coming future. So more. They have good thing is they have a backlog of orders, different revenue pipelines, and increased revenues. And then they're increasing their sales and marketing initiatives. So they're growing. So I think this is a great move on their part. They received a $1.4 million sale from one of their partners to provide switching gear. So that's going to be a great item for them. Moving, I believe that occurred within the last couple weeks, so that'll be within this fiscal year. Again, they're increasing their exposure and their market and their technical abilities, so that's going to be even better for them as they look for to increase their client base. And here, all the items for their impulse. So they're growing their software team and everything like that. So, and again, software is a high revenue item. So there'll be good amount of cost in its initial development, but from there on, it's revenue. It's a good revenue stream. So for them, the biggest thing is like the outlook. They indicated that this was a record-breaking quarter for them year over year. So that's important for hedge funds to look at as far as numbers grow. And I believe like a 70 or 80% increase is what was required by Barron's to be included in their list. So CleanSpark knocking out of the quarter with 130 30% increase is going to get the attention of a lot of hedge fund managers. So they're also indicating in their forecast that most of their grid related stuff, the energy sector is going to be done when the weather is more stable, right? So warmer weather and everything, that's when it actually occurs. It tends to drop in the colder weather when there's things aren't really as easily deployed during that time. There's that significant increase in their Bitcoin mining, which is accounted for 32% of quarterly revenues. But the most important thing about that is that it only consists of 21 days of mining in December. So that's huge, because if it's only 21 days for a 32% portion of their revenue, then we could look for that increase of the data center petahash capabilities, and being on 24/7. They're going to realize a lot of income from this particular income stream for them. So that's going to be huge. And they're also looking to increase it from the petahash to a larger number. I think that is where they're at right now, 315 petahash. So that's I think it'll be maybe even higher, because it went from 200 to 315. They were thinking about 65% or higher increase. So that's going to be a big item for them. So good good amount of backlog that's available. So they have orders that they need to fulfill. So that's a very good thing. So the renewable energy with their data center, it's a great recipe, because like I said, apart from the initial acquisition of hardware, the next biggest expense and reoccurring expense is the electricity required, the power consumption, and which is high for computational that's required by the Bitcoin network. Right. So they're gonna be included in here from 1 to 1.3 exahash. So that's actually gonna even be bigger. So they're going from 315 petahash to over 1300 petahash. So, or 1.3 exahash, right? So that's going to be resulting in a production of 6 to 9 bitcoins a day. Again, its value is marked at what the current value of Bitcoin. So if the current value of Bitcoin tends to go increase as more institutional just interest in general, we're looking at this number to be higher. Okay, so it's an 80% gross profit margin for mining, which is fantastic. So they're looking to expand in their residential initiatives, so there will be new revenue streams that will be coming. So that's pretty much it. The biggest thing is that their guidance for the fiscal year is going, 2020's fiscal year gross margins, I believe, or the revenue is 2.26 million. They're saying that by September, the end of September, which is the 2021 fiscal year, that it will increase to 300 million. That's a massive increase. So I imagine that each of these quarters, as we progress, is just going to knock it out of the park. So hopefully that resonates well with you guys, that this company is moving up, and they have a huge projection for this year. So hopefully we'll start to see that in the stock price. Again, that's one of the items I wanted you to look at with the stock price, is that I believe all this is going to be temporary, apart from the market sell-off. Not really with just CleanSpark. They're really they should recover pretty well, and hopefully they'll recover with ferocity in the next couple weeks. And long term, we're looking at a 2.23 2.26 revenue from last year to 30 million. So I think the upcoming quarters are just gonna knock it out of the park. All right, guys. Well, that is the review today. Hopefully, you found it useful. I will also try to do a technical analysis Monday of what possible angles we're looking at that could be problematic or helpful to its recovery on Tuesday. All right, guys. Have a great weekend.